If you were to travel to an island off the coast of South Africa called St. Helena, you'd be in for a bit of a shock. You see, this island is home to a population of Indian Ocean rhinos. Now, if you know anything about rhinos, you'll know that this is not normal. That's because these rhinos used to be rats. Hi everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to explain the bizarre phenomenon that turned rats into rhinos, or at least some version of it. And while our example is a bit dramatic, it's actually pretty common among isolated populations of animals. You see, St. Helena is just one of many places around the world where animals have evolved into weird versions of their usual selves. Sometimes they get bigger, sometimes they get smaller. And it all comes down to one thing: isolation. Take the aforementioned Indian Ocean rhino rat, which evolved from ordinary brown rats that made the journey from Africa to St. Helena hundreds of years ago. As far as we can tell, these rats arrived via ship, stowing away on a vessel that had sailed from Madagascar, where similar rhino rats can still be found today. These little guys are medium-sized, about half a meter long with stubby snouts and tails almost as long as their bodies. But over time, something strange began to happen. They got bigger. By the time European sailors arrived on St. Helena in the 16th century, the rats had become huge, up to 2.5 meters long, and weighing more than 4.5 kilograms. They were also missing the typical pointed snout of their mainland cousins, instead developing a more rhino-like appearance. And since no predators had made the trip over from Africa, there was nothing to stop them from getting even bigger. Had humans not intervened and introduced domestic cats, dogs, and rats to the island, the rhino rats may have continued growing. Instead, they shrank. See, when a new species is introduced to an island, there's a tendency for native species to either die out or undergo gigantism or dwarfism. The opposite occurs when an island species makes its way to the mainland. And human introduction of other rat species is likely what caused the rhino rats to evolve into their current forms, somewhere in between their African relatives and their gigantic ancestors. And this isn't just true of rats. Across the ocean in the Caribbean, we find another famous example: the island dwarf elephant. Much like the rhino rats, these guys are medium-sized, about half the height of mainland African elephants. But once again, it's a case of things being bigger in the past. Fossil evidence suggests that dwarf elephants evolved from ordinary forest elephants 136,000 years ago. At the time, the island of Cuba was home to a variety of large mammals, including an 8-foot-tall, 5-toed sloth. But eventually most of these animals went extinct. And today, only the dwarf elephants remain. On the flip side, consider the giant rodent known as a capybara. These semi-aquatic guinea pigs can be found in South America, where they typically weigh around 35 kilograms. But on the remote island of Marajo, they get absolutely massive, over 130 kilograms. That's almost twice the size of their mainland relatives. And it's thought that the absence of predators on Marajo, combined with plenty of food and a lack of competition, has allowed these creatures to grow so large. Of course, not all island species get bigger. Take, for instance, the Galapagos Islands, home to a variety of small animals, including the famous Galapagos penguin, which is the only penguin species found north of the equator. On average, it's about half the height of an emperor penguin, probably due to the same forces we've already mentioned, namely a lack of predators, ample food, and little competition. Or consider the pygmy hippopotamus, which evolved from ordinary hippopotamuses around 40,000 years ago. As far as we can tell, this happened on the island of Liko in Cameroon, where they still live today. Pygmy hippos are just a third the size of their mainland relatives, though it doesn't seem to have affected their appetites. In fact, they eat just as much as full-size hippos, which could explain why they haven't gotten any bigger. So what's the lesson here? Well, it seems that island animals evolve differently from their mainland counterparts, often becoming smaller if they move to an island and larger if they move to the mainland. This might make sense from an evolutionary perspective, as animals that are well adapted to their environments tend to survive and reproduce more successfully. But it also means that if you ever see a rhino rat, it's probably best to steer clear. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe my channel. See you next time.